Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss the specimen uterus. So I have the uterus, specimen of a uterus. Along with uterus I have fallopian tube and ovary also. We will see the uterus first and then we will see the fallopian tube. We will also see the ovary and the broad ligament. Okay, so you can see here, this is the uterus, this is the uterus, this is the fundus of the uterus, this is the fundus of the uterus, this is the body of the uterus, this is the isthmus, and this is the cervix of the uterus. Even you can see the opening here, that is the external os. You can see the external os here. So once again I will tell you, you can see the uterus here. This specimen is of uterus. So you can have the fundus of the uterus, body of the uterus, isthmus of the uterus, and then the cervix. So you can see the cervix and you can see the external os here. Now what we are seeing here, this is the anterior aspect of the uterus. Now let's see the posterior aspect of the uterus. You can see this is the posterior aspect of the uterus. So this was the anterior surface, this is the posterior surface. Now here you can see the attachment of the fallopian tubes. You can see the fallopian tubes here. This is the fallopian tube here. I will show you the fallopian tube here. This is the fallopian tube here. Okay, here also you can see the fallopian tube attached here. This is the fallopian tube. So fallopian tube, this is the fallopian tube. Now the fallopian tube has got many parts. Let's see what are the parts of the fallopian tube. The fallopian tube has got fimbriated end laterally, and then you have the infundibulum, then you have the ampulla, then you have the isthmus, and then you have the intramural part, okay, or the uterine part which enters the uterus. Similarly on this side you will see here, this is the fimbriated end of the uterus, this is the infundibulum, this is the ampulla, this is the isthmus, and this is the uterine part of the fallopian tube. Okay. Apart from that, what are you seeing? Apart from that, we are seeing the ovaries. You can see the ovaries here. You can see here ovaries. Okay, the oval shaped ovaries here. Now ovaries are present on the postero-superior aspect of the broad ligament. Now where is broad ligament? Now you can see the broad ligament. This is the broad ligament. This is the broad ligament. Now the broad ligament is extending laterally from the uterus and it goes to the lateral wall of the pelvic wall and also the floor of the pelvic wall. So this is the broad ligament. So on this side you can see the broad ligament is complete. On this side it has been cut little bit. Okay, so this is the broad ligament. This is the broad ligament of the uterus. Now there are different parts of the broad ligament of the uterus. We will see what are the different parts of the broad ligament. Now you can see here, this part of the broad ligament immediately below the fallopian tube is called as mesosalpinx, that is the mesentery of the fallopian tube. And then above the ovary you are seeing this part of the broad ligament is called meso-ovarium or mesentery of the ovary. And then you can see this part here, this part of uterus is the mesentery of the uterus itself, that is known as mesometrium. This is known as a mesometrium. So once again I will tell you. So you can see here, this is the fallopian tube. Below the fallopian tube, the part of the broad ligament is known as mesosalpinx. Then you can see the ovaries here. You can see the ovaries very clearly here. This is the ovary. Now above the ovary, that part of the broad ligament, whatever you are seeing here, this is known as the meso-ovarium. This is the meso-ovarium, that is the mesentery of the ovary. Then the majority of the broad ligament is actually the mesentery of the uterus itself, known as the mesometrium. So this is with the uterus. So what we saw in the uterus were parts of the uterus, that is the fundus, body, isthmus, and the cervix. So fundus, body, isthmus, and the cervix. Fundus, body, isthmus, and the cervix. Okay. So same thing on this surface. You can see the fundus of the urinary bladder, you can see the body, you can see the isthmus, and you can see the cervix. Thank you.